What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for June 27th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Thursday edition of the podcast. I guess let's get right into the big news of the night. Sixers did, in fact, not trade the 16th pick in the draft. Instead, they took Jared McCain, a guard out of Duke. And I guess on first... I did a little bit of quick research. Obviously, they picked him around 10 o'clock. I still get up early, even though it's summer. So I wasn't able to do a ton of research. But really, the announcers and the guys in the draft on the ESPN, they were all about it. And in looking into it deeper from just a quick shot, I like the pick. And I think he's a great shooter, which I think it's one of those positions you can never have too many of. And I know a lot of people were like, oh, take Dalton Connect. He's more polished. He's more ready. And I could have gone either way between Dalton Connect and Jared McCain. But I think I like McCain because his upside is much bigger than what Connect is. I think Connect, basically what you see with him is what you get. I think McCain has a shot to be special. And I'm not going to sit there, and I know some of his stats in college are comparable to Steph Curry, so I'm not going to sit there right now and say, oh, he's the next Steph Curry. No, let's pump the brakes a little bit on that. But he is a phenomenal shooter, and I think everybody's like, oh, he's only 6'2", and his height is a little, and there's some questions about his defense as well. But I think based on the fact that you have Joe, you have Maxey. Maxey's more of a slasher. Yes, he can shoot, but Maxey can drive and dish out. Joe down in the post, draw a double team, kick out. I really, really like this pick. I could have gone without the whole Duke aspect of it, but that's just a personal preference. And truthfully, 30 years ago, it would have been like, oh, God, they took a guy from Duke. Guys from Duke didn't do anything. But that narrative has changed between Tatum, even G Jared Redick to a certain point. Who else? My mind is going blank on other Duke players. But Duke players now have done... I think Brandon Ingram went to Duke. That was the other one. And I think Duke players have done better now. So that narrative is gone. I still hate Duke. Never will like Duke. But I think him playing for Duke, though, does help him adjust to Philly and the crowds. Because obviously that crowd at Duke is insane. But he got a lot of hate no matter where they went, especially when they're playing conference games in the ACC. So I do think he has a chance to be special. I think Nick Nurse has done a lot of smaller guard offensive sets, so I'm sure Nick Nurse had some input in on this pick at all. Like I said, I don't hate it. At picking at 16, your options are limited, and this was not the deepest draft to begin with. So I was surprised, to be honest, that he was there at 16. Same with Dalton Connect, to be honest. However, I will take it. I think we don't have anybody else on the team, so to kind of put it into context, it's hard. Like if you had like half the team or most of the team under contract, you could say, okay, this is where he fits in. I mean, with the way the team is right now, he is our starting. I don't know whether he'll be point guard or shooting guard. I think you put him at shooting guard, let Maxey run the point. I'm very pleased with it, and I think round 2 should be interesting tonight because the Sixers always seem to have a ton of second-round picks, and this might be the night where guys get moved and things like that. But overall, Jared McCain out of Duke, I take it. I give it right now, just without even doing in-depth research on it. I give it like a solid B as a grade just because they took a guy that fell to him, and I'm okay with it because he can shoot. And one of the things we've noticed with the Sixers during this the Joel Embiid era is that they need shooters. And look at what G Jared Redick did while he was playing with Joe. So this kid's young. He's got a personality. He's full of energy. Him and Maxey should be a lot of fun. I can see them just running all over the court, being crazy. But overall, he seems like a good kid, good head on his shoulder. I'm ready now to see what the next steps are to see how they can build the team around him. But this could be a piece for the future too. You never know, but you can never have too many guys that can shoot. And this isn't like a Markelle Fultz or Ben Simmons type shooter. This guy is more in line with like Steph Curry. And again, I'm not saying he is the next Steph Curry, so don't take my quote and say, oh, well, Jim said on this day in Philly sports history he's the next. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying he has that same sort of shooting ability, and that is something that you can't really teach. It's one of those just innate things that guys have, and if you can shoot, you're going to do well in this league. It's just a matter of how well. But I'm anxious to see the next step, and I'm kind of leaning more toward giving Morey a chance here. And I saw something from Tyrone Johnson for 97.5 yesterday, and it really got me thinking. And I talk all the time about being open-minded and kind of looked at it from a different perspective, because it's easy right now to put all the blame on Daryl Morey. The entire Joel Embiid era is Daryl Morey's fault. But in reality, he's been trying to clean up the mess from Sam Hinkie and Brian Colangelo this whole time. He didn't give the contract to Tobias. He didn't draft Markelle Fultz. He didn't draft Ben Simmons. He didn't draft Jahlil Okafor. That was not on him. So he's been cleaning it up. Now, based on what he's done, he's not put the right pieces, but he kind of like Ruben Amaro Jr., I think is a good comparison to Daryl Morey right now. Ruben Amaro, he went for it. I mean, he had his philosophy and he went for it. He had them in contention every year. It just never happened. Sixers are, whether you want to believe it or not, they're always one of the top 4 teams in the East, last year aside because of Joe's injury. So let's see what he can do. I don't necessarily think right now, depending on, I guess, if they can pull some kind of trade-off, it doesn't look like they're going to get a huge superstar. So I would almost be more inclined to give smaller, shorter contracts to folks and just wait it out and see what happens. And then maybe you can snag someone who is unhappy once the season starts. But we'll see. There's still a lot of time to go in this offseason, but it's a good start. I will take Jared McCain with the 16th pick in the draft, and I'm anxious to see what day 2 has. But let me know your thoughts on the draft pick. Where are you sitting with this? 267-495-8531. That gets you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Shoot me a text. Just leave a voicemail. But I'm happy with it. I like the pick. And again, in a vacuum, I like the pick. I would like it even more if I knew where he fit in with the other pieces. But we should have some more clarity within the coming days. All right, let's recap yesterday's matchups in the Ultimate Philly Sports Nickname Tournament. And out of the Schuylkill region, after a slow start, it was one of those times where the 16 seed had a lead at halftime on our number 1 seed, Chuck Bednarik. But at the end of the day, Concrete Charlie beat the Owl Without a Vowel 70% to 30%. He will move on after a little bit of a scare. And as we always see in the NCAA tournament, maybe this will wake Chuck up and get him moving forward. And then out of the Cheesesteak region, it wasn't even close. Almost as expected, 92% of the vote. Allen Iverson, the answer, beat Home Run Baker to move on to the second round. And I still cannot believe and get over the fact that the Philadelphia Athletics have the most championships in Philadelphia. It's just bizarre to me. Anyway, be sure to get your votes in every day. There'll be 2 more matchups in later in the show. Hit me up on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn. But as I said the other day, when there are technical issues with the podcast, the audio version, be sure to just subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're slowly clicking up there. And the more subscribers I have, the more they put me in people's queues when they say you might like this video. So just, even if you're listening to the audio podcast, go subscribe to the YouTube channel. That would be a big help for the podcast. Good bounce back for the Phils yesterday. Solid win up in Detroit to win that series. They're on the other side now, 15. And like I said, Rob Thompson said 30 series wins and you'll make the postseason. So they are well on the way to that. They were able to pound out 12 hits. It was a bullpen game for the Tigers and turned out to be a bullpen game for the Phillies as well. Spencer Turnbull left early with shoulder soreness, but to their credit, the bullpen came in and really stepped up. No word on the severity of Turnbull's shoulder, but he wasn't his normal stretched out for if he was going to make a start, so I don't know if that played into it. But Brandon Marsh broke out of his slump in a big way, 4 for 4 with a homer, and the Phils are just rolling. And if they can just keep winning series, that's really the name of the game. At this point, I'm not even that concerned with seeding or anything like that. Just keep winning series, and come August, then we'll start worrying about seeding and things like that. They welcome the Marlins this weekend for a 4-game set starting tonight at 6:20 due to the fireworks show. I always want to call him Chris Wheeler. Zach Wheeler takes the mound for the Phillies. Should be able to take 3 of 4 from the Marlins. Let's go. Let's get greedy. Let's go for a sweep heading in. The Dodgers are looming there in a couple weeks on the horizon. So let's get hot before we play the Dodgers. All right, the announcement has been made, and Philly Goat has partnered with John Kruk to come up with the John Kruk is My Spirit Animal shirt. And this is the best part of this. 10% of the sales go to the Battle of Brothers Foundations to support veterans. Causes like that are very near and dear to my heart. And this is not a political statement whatsoever, but anything to support our vets, I'm all for. So go to phillygoat.com, get the John Kruk is My Spirit Animal shirt. 10% of your sale will go toward the Battle of Brothers. Check out the other stuff they have there too. Get some shoes to match. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. But this is an awesome, awesome thing, and I'm proud to be partnered with a company like Philly Goat, who really does look out for our vets and does things for charity and is always looking to make things better. And this is an organization that's very near and dear to John Kruk's heart. And Kruk has always been one of my favorites. He's second to none when it comes to his analysts on TV. But buy the John Kruk is My Spirit Animal shirt. 10% of your sales will go to the Battle Brothers Foundation that supports our vets. And use the promo code Jim Montgomery, and let's help out this cause. Let's help Krucker out. I just saw some early things yesterday. A ton of people were buying this shirt, but kudos to Philly Goat and Ryan over there for doing this amazing thing. And I will add a little funny little note here. If you were on Philly Goat's mailing list, you saw this, but he put in the screenshot of the text exchange with John Kruk, and he showed him the Joe Carter Ruined My Childhood shirt. He's like, me and my boys, we wear this shirt all the time. Just thought you wanted to know, or something along those lines. And in true John Kruk fashion, John Kruk's like, yeah, he ruined my adulthood. So Krucker is doing Krucker things. But be sure to buy the John Kruk is My Spirit Animal shirt at Philly Goat. 10% of your sale goes to the Battle Brothers Foundation that supports our veterans. Very good cause, very good organization. So shout out to Philly Goat for doing that. So let's help them out and help that great organization out. All right. No real Flyers updates as they prepare for the draft tomorrow. I mean, it's been a while since we've been in this position where we're excited about a Flyers offseason. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll have the Phillies on, and I'll be flipping back and forth between the NHL draft tomorrow. We do have some Eagles news today, and Lane Johnson was on, I forget who he was on with. It might have been Pro Football Talk. But either way, the question of Jalen Hurts came up, and he's like, Hurts is becoming way more of a leader. He's reaching out to guys. He's becoming more vocal, creating those bonds and those connections. And I love this. And maybe, just maybe, the whole thing with Sirianni was overblown. But I do like this, and I know some people are like, well, he should take them out bowling, or he should do this. And I'll be the first to tell you. I worked with a guy years and years and years ago. My first job out of college, it was at a grocery store. I was a seafood clerk and worked in the meat room. We all got close. We would hang out all the time. But he said something that was very profound to me. And I kind of live by this every job I've had ever since then. And he said, listen, I come here to work to support my family. And yes, I have to get along with people while we're at work. If I can make some friends along the way, great. But I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to get the job done. And yes, we need to work as a team. So the whole going bowling and things like that, I don't need him to be like, hey, let's go on the escape room, things like that. Yes, maybe they'll be friends, whatever. What I do need, though, is him to be the leader and have a pulse on what everybody's thinking. It's one of the things I pride myself in on my job now. So I know, give you an example. Like I always check in with my teachers, this, that, and the other. I have a teacher who is very, very big into the Inside Out movie. And her and I have talked because she has a mug. And I mentioned, oh, we just watched that last night with the kids. And we and it wasn't even work related. And this is the type of thing I need from Jalen Hurts. We had a conversation about the movie and how it's good for kids and how to express emotions and things like that. We talked about the new one coming out. So we went and saw it a couple weeks ago with the kids and just popped in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, she likes it. So I shot her a text message. It was like, hey, just saw Inside Out 2, loved it. Let me know what you think when you watched it. And it's a summertime, so she's not even working. She's fired back. She's like, oh, I saw it last night at midnight. It was great. How did the kids like it? Those are the things I need from Jalen Hurts. I don't care if he goes out bowling. I don't care if he takes them to an escape room. But have those relationships. Let those players know, especially the guys that are dependent upon you, that you got them. And I think so much is made of the whole, oh, well, they need to hang out 24/7. No, you don't. I love a lot of the people I work with, but that doesn't necessarily mean I want to go have drinks with them every weekend. Doesn't mean I want to go on vacation with them. It just means that, hey, I know more than just what they do at work, and that's enough sometimes. And I think that's what we need from Jalen. And that was my takeaway from the Lane Johnson comments, is that he's starting to create those bonds and create those relationships, working with them. How can I make you better? How can I help you? Things like that. So I've been kind of trying not to get sucked into the whole negativity about the whole Sirianni. We can't even say comments, the lack of comments, I guess. But to me, this is a good step, and that's what I need from my quarterback. So if your offensive tackle is saying that, and Lane is one of those older vets, so if he's saying that, it makes me feel a lot better about the situation. But let me know what you think. Maybe I'm completely missing the point of what he said, which honestly sometimes happens. All right, today we're going to go back to 2010. And on this day in 2010, the Phillies beat the Blue Jays 11-2. Ben Francisco went 3 for 5 with a double and 3 RBI. J-Roll went 3 for 6 with 2 RBI. Ryan Howard scored 2 runs. And catcher Dane Sardina, remember him, had 2 RBI himself. Jamie Moore pitched 7 innings, 2 earned runs, 5 Ks, and a walk. But why are we talking about a random game against the Blue Jays in 2010? Well, this game was played at Citizens Bank Park, but the Phillies were the away team. Due to the G20 Economic Summit that was in Toronto over that same time period, they moved the scheduled Toronto Philly series to Philadelphia. This happened to be Game 3. They played it under American League rules, so the Phillies were the away team. I think they stayed in the home dugout, though. I don't think they did that. But they got to sleep in their beds. They got to drive to the stadium. Didn't have to stay in a hotel. But they played with a DH. Ryan Howard was the first DH to ever play or be a DH in his home stadium in the National League. The Blue Jays got the gate revenue for the ticket sales, which kind of probably was a win for them, since at that time the Phillies were in the middle of that ridiculous sellout streak. But the Phillies got to keep the concessions since it was their people working. They did win 2 of the 3 games as the away team at Citizens Bank Park. People in Toronto were upset about it, and basically they moved it due to the risk of safety because of traffic congestion, and there was a ton of protesters and things like that. But the people in Toronto were more upset because it would have been Roy Halladay's return back to Toronto in his first game. He did get to pitch in Toronto the following year in 2011. Now, this wasn't the first time an away team had to be the away team played in their home stadium. It is rare, but it does happen. But it was just one of those little quirks. But on this day in 2010, the Phillies won their second of 3 games in Philadelphia as the away team against the Blue Jays, 11-2, due to the G20 Economic Summit. So I remember I couldn't get tickets. We tried to get tickets to this, and it was just so sold out that it was insane. So and I think because it was such a hard ticket to get back then to get to a Phillies game, it was one of those things. But kudos to the Blue Jays, who definitely made out selling the tickets there in Philly for that deal. I'll get it out. Sorry, I'm all fired up about Jalen and Jared McCain. But all right, so let's go to this day in Philly sports history, Ultimate Philly Sports Nickname Tournament, and we have 2 big matchups today. These ones I'm anxious to see how they work out. First, we're going to the Cheesesteak region, and the number 7 seed Hound Dog is taking on the number 10 seed Sarge. Let's start with the Hound Dog. Bob Kelly played 10 years with the Flyers, won 2 cups, made it to 4 Stanley Cup finals. He was known more for being the enforcer along with the Hammer Dave Schultz. More on him later in the tournament. So he wasn't necessarily a scorer, but he was one of the enforcers of the team. He did hit the game-winning goal for Game 6 of the 75 Stanley Cup that clinched it for the Flyers. Now, where did that name Hound Dog come from? Well, it has its origins in his very first day in Flyers camp in 1970. Apparently, he's flying all around. He flattened Joe Watson, who was one of the OG Flyers. And Joe Watson said, "Holy Christ, this guy plays like a mad dog, for crying out loud." And the name just stuck from there. He did change it a year and a half later because they were doing a lot of charity events with kids, and Mad Dog just sounded too intimidating. So they changed it to Hound Dog, and the rest, as they say, is history. So Hound Dog Bob Kelly originally was Mad Dog Bob Kelly, but due to wanting to be more kid-friendly, he changed it to Hound Dog, and it has stuck ever since. So Bob Hound Dog Kelly is the number 7 seed out of the Cheesesteak region. He is taking on Sarge, Gary Matthews, who is an outfielder for the Phillies. He only played 3 years in Philly, but spent 7 years as a radio and TV analyst. He was very, very clutch in the postseason, had 7 home runs in 19 postseason games in Philly. He was the MVP of the '83 NLCS. He got the nickname Sarge from Pete Rose, who Pete Rose was known for his hustle, and I don't know how much of a leader he was, but he played the game the right way and played the game hard. And that's what the first thing he noticed about Gary Matthews. He noticed that he had ceaseless effort and work ethic, and he was willing to kind of step up and be the leader in the clubhouse, hence the name Sarge. So it's your turn now. Who wins this matchup of Cheesesteak region? This is I wouldn't call it quite a heavyweight, but this should be a good matchup. Hound Dog Bob Kelly or Sarge Gary Matthews. Who moves on? Let me know. And our second matchup, this is literally Philadelphia Blue Bloods right here. These two are Titans in Philadelphia, and we are going to the Ben Franklin region for this matchup. The number 6 seed Smokin Joe Frazier takes on the number 11 seed Harry the K. Yes, Harry Callis. What a first round matchup this is. Kudos to the selection committee on this one. But Smokin Joe was a heavyweight champ, one of the best fighters to ever come out of Philly. Certainly the best heavyweight fighter, not named Balboa. See what I did there? But best heavyweight boxer to come out of Philly, 32-4-1 record with 27 KOs. His only 4 losses were to Ali and George Foreman. They do have the statue of him down at Xfinity Live. He was a gold medal winner in the 1964 Olympics. And where did the name Smokin Joe come from? Well, he said in an interview one time that his first trainer gave him the nickname Smokin Joe. He said, "I want you to go out there and throw so many punches that smoke comes from your glove," and started calling him Smokin Joe. And if you ever seen Joe Frazier fight, that's kind of how he fought. So that's where the name Smokin Joe came from, and it definitely is a great nickname for a boxer and really embodies who Joe Frazier was. He is taking on the number 11 seed, Harry Kalas, Harry the K. There's not much I can say about Harry Kalas that I haven't already said. He's a Hall of Fame broadcaster. He's the absolute GOAT when it comes to Philly broadcasters. Apologies to Bill Campbell. Apologies to Merle Reese. Apologies to Mark Zumoff, whoever you want to put in there. Harry Kalas is the GOAT of Philly broadcasters. I talk all the time. To me, he was the soundtrack of my summers. I remember watching games, listening to them on the radio, and Harry's voice with Whitey just getting us through the dog days of summer. His famous calls, "That ball's out of here." I'm not a good Harry Kalas impersonator. I remember just even my dad playing Stratomatic baseball with him would do the "struck him out." Michael Jack. There's guys whose names I can't read without reading them in Harry Kalas' voice. Mickey Morandini for one. Desi Relaford is another. But how did he get the name Harry the K? Larry Christensen in the mid-'70s gave him the name Harry the K, and it just stuck. So much so that Harry the K's is the restaurant at Citizens Bank Park that they named after him. So this is a heavyweight, no pun intended, heavyweight matchup. So now it's your turn. Who wins out of the cheesesteak region? The number 7 seed, Hound Dog Bob Kelly, taking on the 10 seed Sarge Gary Matthews. And then out of the Ben Franklin region, number 6 seed Smokin Joe Frazier takes on the number 11 seed Harry Kalas. Yes, Harry the K. Who wins? Get your votes in any way you can. You can call or text the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. Hit me up on any of my social media. Text message me. Email me. Don't fax. Don't have a fax machine. Nobody did send a Western Union letter, but get your vote in however you can. Spread the word. Let's start growing this podcast. And we've been having some fun with the tournament, and the votes have been through the roof. So thank you for that. But who wins? Hound Dog versus Sarge, and then Smokin Joe versus Harry the K. Get those votes in. And also, when you call or text the Back to the Future voice and text line, let me know your thoughts on the Sixers draft. How are we on Jared McCain? Are we happy? I like it. I think it's just a part of bigger moves that are yet to come. I'm putting my faith in Daryl Morey, and I feel like somehow, just like the Sixers always do, this is going to blow up in my face. But I'm very happy with where they're at right now. Phillies look to take on the Fish tonight down at Citizens Bank Park. I believe it is a fireworks night. So if you're going down, enjoy. I think they said they were going to do the drones instead of fireworks, which is pretty cool. Flyers are gearing up for their draft. On this day in 2010, the Phillies beat the Blue Jays 11-2 as the away team at Citizens Bank Park due to the G20 Economic Summit. They had to move the Blue Jays out of there for safety and security reasons. But make sure to get those votes in for the nickname tournament. Day 2 of the NBA draft. Give me your thoughts. Anything Philly sports related. I think it's supposed to be a halfway decent day today, too. Not quite as hot as yesterday. So get out and enjoy once this fog and the clouds and everything burn off. Whew, what a show. What matchups we have for the nickname tournament, though. I am pumped. But go. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for June 27th, 2024. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Thursday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.